Ah! show.
Watch out for the brown acid.
That was my first big thing, was my aunt's album collection. She went off to college and she left all of her album collection there, and I remember it was I forget which Rolling Stones album it was, but I remember picking that up and flipping it over, looking at the cover, and I really distinctly remember there's 5 pictures of the band, and it must have been like their first or second album. And I just remember like going, man, those some scruffy looking motherfuckers, you know. And so I liked that first time they put the record on, and it was all blues music. It was all, you know, they were doing Chuck Berry and King B and Slim Harpo and Muddy Waters and that kind of stuff. Which, as funny as Southerners and Mississippians in particular, I think, we're so ingrained with blues music and we don't really realize it. It's something that's part of our culture and everything. It really is. And you'll know song lyrics and stuff. As a little kid, you know, had a leg in the east and a leg in the west, I'm in the middle where I like it best. Shit like that, you know, you're on the record, man, I already know that lyric. Yeah.
Check. 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 Check.
To Ole Miss, I was really into guitar, but just for a hobby, you know, just for fun.
4 or 5 years old, my dad had me grabbing some I call them cowboy chords.
In school here, right off the bat, because our names were together, I was next to Bill McCrory, McConnell McCrory.
We were talking about some Neil Young tunes, and George overheard and said, "Hey, you play guitar?" And of course, he did, and that just sparked the introduction.
Just basically, we're goofing around on acoustic guitars a lot and just having fun. He was working at Forrester's, and this guy named Demon Barry, and they were both bartenders there, and this guy named Bill Cato.
Bill Cato was having a party at this really cool house on Beanland Avenue.
It's great. 1313 was that's where everybody, where you going? 1313. Nobody even said Beanland, just 1313, you know. Oh, great.
40, 50 people there, and we're just sitting there playing acoustics and just having a good time. And
so Demon, who was a bartender, was like, "I mean, y'all should fucking come do this at the bar." He's like, "Well, what's y'all's name?" He's like, "Well, name," you know. He's like, "Well, I was, you know." So they named us basically, and so it's the guys from 1313 Beanland. And then somebody called back to the house over there. So he was like, "Well, y'all can't do that shit anymore. Y'all take my house out of this."
Yeah.
So then it just became Beanland. So our thing was, first set was acoustic. play acoustic guitars, kind of do more acoustic songs. Second set was electric, no drums or bass, we just plug up electric guitars.
Oh my God.
And just loud as shit duo.
And the first Beeling gig, there's a picture. We actually played on top of the garage. We were a garage band, played on top of the garage. And so then Rob Laird came along. I remember Rob he did the Keith Moon. He came in, he was like going, I can play drums better than that guy.
He absolutely did. I told that same story earlier.
I was walking down the street, going from one to the gym, probably to the Hoka, walking by Ireland's, and I heard some Grateful Dead music. Of course, it was George and Bill and Adam, I guess, and they were playing some Dead stuff, and I walked up to George and I said, "Man, I can do something." To paraphrase, I'm better than him. Did any of them ever tell you what the guy in New York called us?
What?
But he called us river music. I mean, yeah, the funk, the R&B, blues.
And you know, that's
And I don't know how the acid got in there, but it did somehow.
You know, we didn't have equipment, and just going through that, and just every Thursday night, didn't even charge a cover, you know. Just, hey, what, you gonna give us free beer? Sure, we'll come play guitar for free beer. It was just a lot of fun. We had great time and great response, and people kept urging us on, and it just became a snowball effect. And from
my work schedule back then, when I was in college, I didn't work on Thursday night deliberately so I could go see them. Things got bigger and started rolling, and they bought a soundboard one day and said, didn't know what to do with it, and I didn't really either, but I figured I could give it a shot. And
We were three-piece with Rob for, I don't know, a long time. I want to say a year before we added the bass player on.
Wow.
And it was a couple of interim players before RG came along. And RG, Ron was a lead guitar player in a heavy metal band, of which I believe the name.
Time I was playing with a band called Polar Deep. We were just a roadhouse band, play up at the Beer Joint in Marshall County. Through a mutual friend, T.K. Harris, I ended up, meeting these guys. And
Yeah, they played their ass off. So RG played lead guitar, and I'm fuzzy. You're gonna have to ask RG about this because I'm fuzzy on how.
moved next door out of the swamp.
Next door to the
There's two
swamp.
houses, yeah.
Oh my God!
It was
Ron's
fake, man.
life was going so good for him until he moved
Moved to
next
the
door
swamp.
to the swamp. He could have been, a famous lead guitar player for, Queensryche or somebody like that. And he moved to the swamp, and we got a hold of him.
Say what you will, it was like we were all deadheads, man. And it was all about digging what the Dead did and wanting to do something like it,
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun to be in the audience, but hey, let's try it.
Do it.
And isn't that what the Dead's about? Try it,
Right, and that was our whole thing. Was it was wide open. You did whatever you wanted to do. If you felt like playing lead while during the middle of the verse, go right ahead.
Everybody sounds good.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, we were four-piece for about another year. So this must be like 86, 87, something like that. Maybe 88, 87. When JoJo comes into town.
And he was playing for tips at the Hoka. And I heard him doing all that, that boogie woogie. And I was like, damn, how does he know this stuff? He's from New York. He was a big Scott Joplin fan, too.
On that old raggedy piano.
Oh, man, yeah.
They had an old stand-up piano in the back.
This is, right here.
Way out of tune. I walked in one night to get a Love at First Bite. It's a sandwich, famous sandwich there. And I heard this ragtime going in the back, and I remember looking back there and seeing a old burly-headed guy in the back just wasn't looking at his hands, was just, Ray Charles, and it just ragtiming the shit out of a out of tune old stand-up piano and making it sound the best I'd ever heard.
I remember walking in the Hoka. Bill Ferris sent me there when I landed in Osprey. And he was like, go see Ron Spear at the Hoka. So Ron, you know, there was a beat up old piano just like this. I would just sit there and play long hair. I would just play Red Beans, you know.
Yeah, this kid came and said that Bill Ferris had sent him down, and that there's a possibility that he could play piano, and he didn't have any money. And our deal was that he would get $35 a week and all the cheese sandwiches he could eat.
I just remember the first time hearing him at the Hoka playing.
Right.
And then that one day we asked him to come over and play. Well, actually, we went over to his house.
Because he had a piano over there, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right across from the Baptist church, and didn't they come tell us to be quiet after about 5 or 6
Yeah.
One of the first 3 bars into the first song we were doing, we both looked at each other and go,
Yeah.
it was.
It was probably after the second song we asked him to join the band.
Yeah.
You know, first song he was like, yeah, come to the gig. Second song was, yeah, join the band.
So I just play that long hair stuff all night. That's all I knew.
Do you want to explain what you're doing?
I'm changing my guitar strings because if I don't, they'll break. I'm a notorious sweaty-handed, nasty, gnarly, blue-fingered musician. Things kept going and we were getting good just from doing it so much. And for us, from the very beginning, it was like we were pulling the trick over on everybody. It's like, well, you're going to give me, let me get this straight, all the beer I can drink, free pizza, and I might make some money from the door y'all gonna collect for playing music. Sure, yeah, I guess we can do that. Let me check my, oh yeah, I guess we can. We were laughing the whole way, it's like going, I still feel the same way about it. I still feel like I'm like a little kid about it. I was like, I can't believe y'all gonna pay me to do this.
It was a very trippy experience playing at the Hoka.
The Hoka was special because, I mean, we wouldn't start until all the bars closed.
Because Hoka wasn't a bar, it was a theater and a restaurant. They didn't sell any alcohol. But when they'd have a band, you could bring your own cooler in, and you know, we'd play. All the bars had to close at either 12 or 1, depending on the night of the week, but no later than 1. And still to this day, it's 1 o'clock. In Oxford, the Hoka, we played at 4. Until the police would come in, you know, they turn this racket off, boys, and go to complain from the neighborhood.
Beanland brought the people out of the woodwork. They did run afoul of the law a couple of times. I mean, because Oxford has a noise ordinance.
Of course, every time Beanland played, I'd get arrested. I saw the police in the parking lot, so I immediately grabbed all the money out of the till and ran up to the front of the stage, and I was going to go out the exit and run away with the money. And I didn't want to get arrested again because they would always arrest me because I was the manager or owner or whatever. And I remember running up to the stage and just going, cut, you know, because the police are coming, you know. I just remember hauling ass.
It was killer. It was a fucking restaurant with a bunch of great art on the wall. It's like this collage of fucking professional long hair meters. Dead posters everywhere. Very comfortable. It's just awesome.
Say hello to the ocean coming down. Say my lighthouse won't look the same anymore.
I love Oxford because of the, you know, Ron Shapiro, Jim Dees, Blaine, and George and Bill. You know, it's the people. Pat Brown. You know, Pat Brown used to sit with me in the Grove, and they taught me about life. You know, they just taught me about life. And the thing about Mississippi is that Mississippi has a groove. You know, when you come to Mississippi, everything just has you know, it not only has a vibe, but it has a groove from Junior Kimbrough and R.L. Burnside, from the Tangents. And Beeland is part of that. Everything in Mississippi comes down to this groove, and just the groove is the way of life. It took me a few years to catch on to that. You know, when I first moved down, I was like the ambitious Yankee, you know, coming down. But everything I've learned in life that's important to me, I learned in Mississippi. You know, they taught me everything. I'll never forget. And
most of the blues players out of Mississippi, if they say it in their songs, 9 times out of 10, they probably done did it. You know what I'm saying? Playing my music is my life. You know what I'm saying? I want to play it for the rest of my life. And if JoJo didn't love it, hell, he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't have did it as long as he did it now. I know he loved it. I can look at him and tell he loved what he do. You know what I'm saying? That's real, man. That's reality. That shit came true.
You know, really, he didn't have nowhere to go anyway. So, you know, you just got on the bus and came in and didn't have nowhere to stay, no food, no money. So, you know, I met him at the bus station. Didn't know nothing about it. You know, said, hey man, come on, Father, let's go drink something. Taught him how to hang out, how to treat people. You treat people nice, people treat you nice. You treat them like an asshole, they're gonna treat you like an asshole. You taught him how to hustle. And he wanted to play in a band, so Ron and Jim D and all that, we said, y'all get into it with George. After get to practice. Honey! It was real anything.
I always say I'm from Mississippi when people ask me where I'm from. Just because, well, it's a lot cooler.
The best band around here ever was the Tangents. Oh, one of the best fucking bar bands ever. They played straight up hardcore R&B and nailing the shit out of it.
Okay, let me talk about the Tangents. We haven't talked about the Tangents.
And Charlie Jacobs gave me some, God rest his soul, gave me pointers in the Charlie Jacobs way. You know, they kicked it up too hard. You know, better play ahead of the beat. Damn. Yeah. But yeah, and that led to the No Bros, to Dr. John, to the Radiators, to Professor Longhair, and getting, you know, the roots thing. And I think that's what all of us in the band did. We didn't just listen to the Dead, who the Dead listened to. You know, we all kind of went back in that. George really did that, especially with the Dylan stuff. But see, that's what got me with JoJo.
Charlie Jacobs and Duff, but Fish, Mickey, would come into the Hoka and he would, you know, give me lessons and stuff. But Fish taught me, you know, Fish taught me all that stuff. But the Tangents were a big influence on us, definitely.
That's the way it is. You know it is. In love and pain. Ooh, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. In love and pain. That was Charlie's. We'd be sitting there talking, drinking, eating, you know, and all of a sudden you hear this New Orleans piano playing. And that was JoJo. And next thing I know, Fish is back there with him. So it's 4 hands doing all kind of wild stuff. And, you know, I don't know why we didn't think to stick a mic or something back there. That's why Lance is such a big part of the deal, because, you know, thanks to Lance, a lot of stuff got recorded, a lot of stuff got saved.
I wanted to play with a piano player again, Tangents thing.
Okay.
I mean, Fish, Mickey is just
bad.
Yeah, we were kind of intimidated at Oxford, you know, we didn't know nobody. But, boy, it didn't take long for us to get right at home. You know, we playing the Hoka, and We played the GN and the Warehouse.
But they had a big influence on it, and
Right.
they brought us to Jackson. We opened for them in Jackson. I think that was the first time we played in Jackson. We played open for them, right? And then they set up there fixing to play. Right as they started to play, Charlie Jacobs looked over at me and he said, "Lunchtime." He saw my kick drum and said, "Peace through music." And Charlie said, "Peace through music? Shit, music's the most violent thing I ever heard."
It was built in 1811. The floor moved, and like every now and then, I'd be standing in the back. You know, they couldn't see from the stage, but I'd be standing back there, and the floor moved. And every now and then, one person would shoot up like a trampoline. You know, if you hit, boom, they just shoot 4 feet in the air. So they had a structural engineer come look at it, and he said it was built in 1911, and that's the way it was built. It was built to flex like that, and it's not no danger of falling in. But everybody always thought the room was going to fall in one day. It was on the second floor.
Nirvana upstairs at Sid and Harry's. When that joint would get rocking and those wooden floors would go to springing, and God almighty, that was fun. We didn't care if we fell through.
It
was just the beginning of the jam session type music too.
You know, when Beanland were in their heyday, honestly, like, this is for the record too. Like, I was a Beanland fan as a kid, but I was too young to go to the bars. You know, seriously, I was like 15. The time we're talking about, I was 14 or 15. And I didn't get to see Beanland but once at the New Daisy, right where we are right now. We opened for him here. And they were fantastic. And, you know, like Harry was saying earlier, really now later on, now that JoJo and I have become friends, I realized that what he was doing was he was bringing that Professor Longhair, New Orleans sort of groove to the young, what's now called a jam band audience, but then they were making it up. That shit was like, they were, you know, they were inventing literally their scene.
The house that we practiced at, Bill McCrory's house, and he lived out near Sardis, and his roommate was a big outdoorsman, and they had a big ass aquarium that had these Oscars, 2 big Oscars, and they'd feed them, you know, minnows, and they'd tear them up. Well, he caught them, I don't know, about a 2-pound bass or something, and released it into the aquarium for a couple days. And so we're in there rehearsing, and we're laughing because the bass is swimming all around, and we're doing this, we're going to town on this little instrumental song, and all of a sudden we see either our music or something has killed the bass, and it's floating belly up. And our buddy Jim, you know Jim D's around town, and he's the one, he goes, "Oh, I got a name for that song, Fishing Impossible." We're like, "Oh, that's it."
About a year ago, 2001, 11 years later, I get a call from George, and he says, "Hey man, what's your mailing address?" And I gave it to him. He said, "Okay, thanks." And 2 weeks later, a thing comes in the mail from, I think it said Beanland. It had an address, return best, my name. And I opened it up. It's a check for $200.
No.
For Fishing Impossible. 11 years later. He said, and I ran into him later. I said, "Man, that was sweet, but you didn't have to do it." "Oh no, we had a meeting, man, and we kept a little book, and we've been crunching numbers, and we decided that's what we owed you for the title." You know?
Wow. That's incredible.
But I still just do not care for them personally.
For the end.
You know, we'd always like to do a sound check. If we didn't get a sound check, a lot of times they'd open with the instrumental. Even on the road somewhere where nobody ever heard us before, and that used to be different. People would go, "Wow, you know, y'all open with the instrumental." You know, 10-minute one or two, you know, they'd be a long one. But not many bands used to do that, I don't think.
You know, when I left New York, there was no, I didn't know what jam bands were. You know, there was none of that. But I moved to Oxford, and it was like, well, there was Beanland. And then all of a sudden I heard about this band over in Georgia called Wise for Panic. And then all of a sudden, back in New York, where I was from, this new bar opened up called Wetlands. And they had bands like Blues Traveler and Fish playing there. And all of a sudden, all of this shit just started happening. And all of the kids started going to hear it. And I just kind of got caught up in it. I really had no clue. I just kind of I happened to be there.
As an audience member, I love coming and watching a band like one that really knocked me on my ass was Colonel Bruce. The first time I saw them, and I was like, nobody improvises better than those guys. Especially his first band he had. Oh my God, they were so scary. And as an audience member, that totally gets my attention. I'll sit there, and I mean, nobody else can talk to me, anything. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm just total.
In 1988, I was playing bluegrass, doing bluegrass radio. Met Colonel Bruce Hampton. Wow. Never was the same after that. When I was in ARU, I was in the first version of it, so we were very, very regional. And we didn't even realize that we were a jam band. We had hippies coming to the show, old jazz cats, people dancing strange, witches.
So this is in the middle of the 80s, you know, we just come out of that. So everything I'd been playing was pretty, you know, stiff and straight, and then I hear this, and it's slinky, nasty, stinky, sloppy thing. It was a groove thing. There was some soul and some funk in there. It wasn't just that. I mean, Galactic does it. Most bands like that.
Yeah.
And they're kind of in that thing now. Probably others. Medeski and all them kind of do that same thing too.
Yeah. Bruce Hampton did me a great favor by giving me permission. He wanted us to play ourselves, and he wanted us to recognize the moment. He used to call that the invisible whip. And the invisible whip was his metaphor for that moment that could happen at any time. But in order for it to happen, everybody had to be aware that it could happen.
All of a sudden there was this whole scene, and all of a sudden we were getting phone calls like, hey, you know, come up and open for the, or do this, do that, you know, and all of a sudden we were just like thrust into it.
Widespread, Aquarium Rescue Unit, England, all good, Atlanta in particular, the Grapes, some other bands. I think we were all pleasantly confused in doing something that was held together by the commonality of the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, you know, there definitely was a neo-hippie kind of circuit that we all played the same clubs. You know, Spin Doctors were doing it. Blues Traveler, you know, they were there.
Greenland or Panic or any of these bands. Fish, all of them. I think we're all song bands with jams. I mean, song, lyric is very important to all of us.
Those guys were great, and they, of course, they sounded just like we did, and so, you know, they were copying us and everything. So.
Y'all look great. Y'all please welcome England.
Beanland and all of us were part of something a lot bigger than ourselves. Whether it be bluegrass, blues, barrel house, jazz, fusion, whatever we brought to the table. The neat thing is that we didn't have to leave those influences at the door. And I think that joy is evident in Beanland. In particular, the convergences of really good musicians from various parts of the country. JoJo from New York, meeting up with these organic, blues-driven Southern rock, baptized in Southern rock people. They made a sandwich. They brought all the ingredients to the stage, and they unashamedly played blues, Southern rock, Bo Diddley feels, Memphis consciousness in their rock. The Memphis consciousness.
I can't say enough about it. Like "Sell in the Rain," Doretha, and "Hate to Lose Your Lovin'" by Little Feat. Those three songs were like key to my groove. And
I saw that to Richie Hayward.
Right.
He's listening to me still on Richie Hayward's list.
No shit, man. Like, you know, in between Professor Longhair, Richie Hayward, Harry Peel, and George McConnell, that is the stew that became Southern rock as we know it today.
I was talking to a guy from Ace Records today, who was here just before y'all came, and we were talking about the jam bands, and you know, being from England, he wasn't. He said, "What really is it?" And I said, "What it really is what Southern rock is now. Southern rock keeps changing. You know, it ain't all Leonard Skinner. It's been changing for a long time. To me, R.E.M. was Southern rock. It's what it was. It's what Southern rock was then. You know, and what Southern rock is now is Panic, and basically, and the jam band phenomenon. Even the Dave Matthews and the non-Southern practitioners of it, they don't change what it is. You know, it's Southern rock. I think it's the metamorphosis that Southern rock is in right now.
The audiences are so accepting of new material, of original material, of the band being able to fuck up. They cheer that they're human beings up there. I think it's refreshing as an audience member to watch somebody walk the tightrope. Your friends that you're sitting around with, that you drove with to the show, that you're staying with, all six of y'all in the Holiday Inn together, party, I can't believe you're on the show, and, you know, and having so much fun. Those are the same people that are up on the stage. It's like watching the tightrope walker. It's like going, and that's why you watch him? Yeah. Because he may fall. You don't watch him because you think he's going to make it cross.
You know, when Beanland was going on, there were two bands, which is actually part of the story that probably hasn't been told. But there was Beanland, and there was the Hilltops. Now, the Hilltops had John Stirratt and Terry and Lori, and they were, to me, I was so inspired by them because they did all originals. And they were the ones who kind of said, glued me into like, we need to do originals, you know, we can't just do covers.
They were doing replacements, Big Star, all the new modern music that was out. I'm talking about nailing the fuck out of it. They were badass.
Our MO was traveling around the Southeast playing fraternity parties. And then we changed our name to the Hilltops and started writing our own songs, and our income immediately plummeted, but we started having a lot more fun. Hilltops were together for a while, and then John left to be part of Uncle Tupelo, and Laurie and I started Old Metal.
They decided one day, you know, covers isn't where it's at. If you're going to do anything, we'll do originals. And cut it off that day, basically fucked their prize-winning horse, right? Shot it in the head right then and there, killed it on the track, and got on this little shaky mule of original material and stuck to their guns and just eventually built an audience back up, but right off the bat, you know, shot.
Weaned them off.
This was right off the bat. Real courageous, and that also was an inspiration to us.
You know, I remember Tuscaloosa, we would go down there when we played all covers, and, you know, we would, you know, do 500 people, you know, make all this money, and, you know, throw money around the Dill's Motor Lodge. We'd be like, woo, yeah, $3,000. And then we started doing originals. It was like, we had $50, you know.
Once again, it was kind of like those were just songs that over the course of about 1.5 years, 2 years that we had written and cropped up, and we thought, well, they're just good enough not to throw away. So a bunch of them we just were too silly or too dumb or whatever, we just threw them away, or we were making fun, you know, or something. And but the ones that stuck, you know, we started putting them into the live set, sticking them in between that Stone song and that Grateful Dead song or what have you. And then it kind of became where the majority of our set was all originals. And then it got to where it was like almost 90% original.
Yeah.
You know, we just had that many songs, and people were coming and requesting them and stuff. And at that point, we were kind of like, well, man, we can continue playing other people's stuff. And then it's sort of, at that point is when it really dawned on us, when we started writing our own songs, we can make a future of this.
The whole vibe was, you know, this street party, have fun, blah, blah, you know, all that. But then, when I heard Doretha, all that changed. You know, the band changed. When Doretha came into the picture and would take me to the show also, all of a sudden, I was like, wow, you know, let's play originals. You know, let's try to be more.
Doretha's about my little sister. Is it? That was her nickname, was Doretha McGillicuddy when she was a little bitty. She was a little baby. We told her that we bought her at Stop and Go. Bought her right off the shelf, and her name was Doretha McGillicuddy. She was like, she's a feisty little girl. She's like, no, that's not true. I'm your baby. My dad, no, we bought you right off the shelf. You're so cute.
So it was kind of like a combination of Iko Iko, which was a combination of that and like the Bo Diddley beat, which was so you know, you kind of combine those two and it turns into like
George can rip off that intro to Doretha and everybody instantly cheers and instantly knows what it is.
But once I heard Doretha and Take Me to the Show, things changed. The songwriting became, in my mind, the thing.
If we hadn't been in Oxford, the band wouldn't have happened. Plain as simple as that. Because, number one, people were open to us doing whatever we wanted to do. And number two, very accepting of the originals. Now, you go to most of the other little Delta towns around, well, they want to hear covers. They don't want to hear your originals. Motherfucker, play something that I can dance to.
Right.
I can play something that I know. Right. Or my favorite request, play something good. Well, I thought. Right. And then it got to where Oxford audiences expected to hear original material.
I was like, well, God, George writes these great songs and shit. And so I was like, well, I want to write a song, and so I sat at the piano and kind of, took that beat, that ba 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 ba, like Franklin's Tower, like. It's that kind of beat, that Franklin's Tower beat. It's like ba ba. So anyway, it's like, I want to write a song like that, and I just sat down at the keyboard, and I decided to write another song, like Doretha, kind of in that beat. Lord, I've wandered around the circle all my life to bring this baby home. Well, George and I wrote a lot together, and God, Bill, brought in Mindfuck. What a great song. Before I learned about the beat, like da 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 da, before I learned that Doretha beat, all I knew was the boogie woogie, like Red Beans. So I'd be like, so I took that beat, and then I just took it to E, and I was like. But I went to Bill and I said, Bill, you got any good stories?
All the kids in the neighborhood would follow Sugar Man through his trail because it was like the Pied Piper. He had a little sack of candy and he would throw it over his back, just like the Pied Piper. But just could not have been cooler to the little kids in the neighborhood. And we followed him around. He would throw us candy. He would tell us great stories. And it wasn't until age 16 or 17 that I found out that big rainstorm washed out a bridge. And Sugar Man knew that the bridge had been washed out. And as soon as people, there were no warning signs, as soon as people would round the corner, they were just plummeting. And he's jumping in. And this is what I told JoJo. I said, JoJo, Sugar Man jumped in there and pulled them out one by one. And he said, man, we got to make a song from that. And that's where he got the one by one.
Yeah, one by one. So, let me segue to the Alabama. Oh, man. Alabama homecoming. And Beelin's playing, I think we're playing 4 gigs in 2 days. We got a double every day. We're playing a frat in the afternoon in Barnes and Mud or something like that. And Ole Miss, by some freak of nature, beats Alabama at their homecoming. We were there, their Gimme beat them team at homecoming. We're right after the game, and Bill's out on the corner giving them the good old the hotty toddy. And basically giving them the good old what for?
No, I didn't care that.
All right, maybe not the what for, but he was giving them the business. And we're all in the bar drinking, and all of a sudden Crow comes running and goes, boys, it looks like it's about to go down. And Alabama fans driving down the road just run up in the bar.
There were a couple of them clenched up, standing this close to me. At that same gig, these 2 guys came up and said, play Sweet Home Alabama. I said, man, we don't do that one. He said, every other band comes in here can do this. You can do it. And I said, man, that's more of a reason for us not to do it. And he looked at his buddy and he said, what did he just say? Should we go kick his ass?
Hey, you're thinking, here it goes.
Oh yeah, I think it's go time, boys. And then I think you heard the conversation. You said, "Go to your truck and listen to it."
I used to travel with the band, and we would, wherever the oldest rebels would play it, that's where Bingham would play. It all worked together well because there'd be people there who knew the band and all that, and we got to go to the game. So it was cool. We would go to the game and have a show that night.
We'd end up always playing Beat It On Down the Line at those games, okay? And what we do, you know, like the Dead would do, they go bom, 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 and then they'd start into the tune. But, yeah, what we do is, you know, give the score of the Ole Miss game at the beginning, like if, you know, 24 to 18 or whatever, we'd do 24, then do 18, and then we'd play the tune, and, you know, that was always our little stick.
A fellow by the name of John Brassfield came to me and said, "Hey, Beanland's in town, let's go sit in with him." I said, "John, that ain't really up to you. We probably need to talk to Lance or somebody in the band." So we went down to Dill's Motor Court, the old musician hotel here in Tuscaloosa, met everybody, and they said, "Sure, come on down and play some with us tonight." And I didn't know that first night where they were playing at the Ivory Tusk if it was going to be one song or end of the night, 2 songs. So I loaded up my stuff, went down. It turned out to be the entire night. All songs, all percussion, 3 or 4 songs on harmonica. And for me, it was just a magic night.
Now I can't really remember how we hooked up with JK or the first gig. I just remember playing without him a couple of gigs and missing him.
And they gave me a great opportunity to do what I do. And I will also go on record saying this. I think I can sit here today and say that I probably did my best playing in my entire life with Beanland because they did give me the freedom to play what and when I wanted to.
You know, back in the day, the bands would always have 2 or 3 cars they traveled in, and they would all meet up, and that was always trouble for a bunch of musicians to meet at some same time. You know. And I had a van, and so the band was getting old, and we were wanting to replace it. So I told them if they played at the bar for 2 nights, I would keep all the money, and they could have the van. So they got the van, they called it Orca, like the whale. It was kind of green and it was white. And they ain't no telling how many miles they put on it. They drove it everywhere, and they would take trips, and we'd load them down a 48-quart cooler with, you know, cheese and ham and bread and mayonnaise and mustard, and send them on their way, you know. And,
we were a hard-working band, man. We were hard-working. We were probably averaging 150, 160 days a year, which is like 3 days a week, every week. When you do that with 6 people, a relationship forms, and it's unlike any other that you'll ever be in. It's more than family. In family things, relationships, there's always strife. And so we just got to run to Tuscaloosa. We stayed there the whole week. The thing we did that was the mistake for me was we checked out at that hotel at 9 o'clock. So everybody got their tickets and went to the game, except me. And I didn't go to the game. I sat at the Tusk, 9 a.m. till about 9 p.m. And I went to the frat game. I found the house. They were all set up. My drums sitting on the stage. We were playing I Know You Rider, and I had this bright idea to say, I'm going to play this a little different this time, you know? And George turned around about halfway through and said, I know you, Rider.
Well, what happened?
I think it was during the second set, I got angry at somebody or something, and went outside to try to cool off, and I just said, fuck it, I'm going to quit. You know, excuse me, the heck with it. I'm through with this. You know, and it was nothing but just the alcohol. Just reasoning pushed to our side, you know. But a couple of them didn't want to let me ride back in the van, man. You know, they were going to put me on a bus, but they let me go ride back with them. Wasn't much said. For years I've had resentments about it because I really wanted to come back. It hurt, man. I was crushed. You know, and I every time I get to that part where I was really hurt and crushed, I had to come back to the part, well, you did it. You know, but then it was like, you know, all the rationalizations and all the, like, you know, you know. You know, I went to see him at Sid and Harry's a few times, and man, it was so cool. I mean, there was the people that loved Beanland and loved me, and I'd worked with and all, they knew, man. They would all like, you know, just come up and speak to me, and they were like, "You doing all right?" You know, it was a nice thing. And John Wells, that he'd always ask me what I thought about the new drummer, and he's good.
Like somebody at the drum shop, they're looking for a drummer, so they send me a tape and say, "Okay, well, I'll come try this." And so we played and went down to Oxford. They had this little pad out in the middle of nowhere, outside of Oxford, somewhere close to that pot farm they had. Right around the corner.
We were setting up on stage, you know, he's putting the snare up, whatever, and everybody's down there wiring a cable up, and he hit that snare, Krakow! Man, it'd give you a heart attack. And I go, God damn, Harry, you play loud. He'd look at you. I don't play loud, I play correct.
Exactly.
I'll never forget that, man.
I was in New York and I met Robert Palmer, the writer, and we would sit and jam together. I was like 17 at the time, but he taught me Stagger Lee. But he taught me like this version, like. He taught me that version, but Professor Longhair, which is the version I did it like. We really bonded and wrote together for a while. There was definitely a period where that was happening. I think I got too ambitious. You know, I started getting overly ambitious about getting a record deal and all that stuff. You know, I kind of I really pushed it because I wanted a record deal so bad. And I don't know, I kind of polluted the vibe. But I also feel like we didn't have a choice, because if we didn't do originals, you know, we couldn't have lasted. Doing originals is a very hard step to take. Sure. Because like I said, you know, our numbers went like so far down, you know, when we did that. But, you know, we stuck with our guns, but then it all came back. You know?
It was crazy that we were playing original songs and didn't have a product. And JoJo was absolutely right. We needed a product, and we weren't getting it done. And there was a lot of reasons we weren't getting it done. We were all great guys, but we weren't all that extremely motivated. You know what I mean? And sometimes it was harder to get guys going. And so there's a lot of reasons behind that. But they seemed to they got motivated after I left very quickly.
So once we started writing songs and people were, you're sitting there watching, they're singing them back to you, that's when it kind of dawned on us, well, man, we should probably put a record out. Well, at that time, we were so naive about it, we didn't even know that you could do that. Just go do it yourself, you know. And then a big inspiration was Panic, putting out their Space Wrangler album. Kind of like, well, fuck these guys, dude. I guess you don't have to ask anybody. You can just go do it if you got the money. So we started saving up gig money, and we started like, well, we need help. We don't know anything about studio. We've never been in the studio. It's like, well, who's the best guy that we know? And everybody's like, well, in this area, if we're talking about Memphis, Jim Dickinson is king. I mean, he's love the albums that he's done, the Big Star stuff, all the Rock Hooter records that he's worked on and played on, much less his piano playing on the Rolling Stones records and everybody else's stuff.
When I was a kid, like 17, 18, 19, me and all the Cody and Paul, our band DDT, and all our friends, we were going through a real experimental stage, right? And we were getting really heavy into psychedelic rock, be it the Allman Brothers, Jimi Hendrix, everything we could find, jazz, just whatever had that feeling, right? And I was just starting to sneak into clubs. And of course, being in Memphis, because we grew up in between Memphis and Oxford, and like personally, we had a whole career for years just playing between the two cities, It's a great place. But Beanland was a band that I could sneak into the club and go see. I didn't see the Allman Brothers for years, you know, or never got to see Jimi Hendrix, but I saw Beanland, and I saw, also at the same period of time was Colonel Bruce Hampton and the original Aquarium Rescue Unit, which is a classic group. But those two bands, man, there was just watching George and JoJo and Harry and all the guys, man, watching them jam back in the day and just rock and roll psychedelic glory as a teenager. That just made, that's where I learned how to do it, man. Around the same period of time, DDT, our band, we were doing recordings with our dad, Jim, and I'd been telling him, I told him, you gotta check out Beanland, and you gotta check out the Aquarium Rescue Unit, and you gotta check out the Flat Duo Jets. Back in the day, those were like my three favorite bands, and I kept telling him about, what did you do last night? Man, I saw Beanland. So I really, I'm hugely in debt to those guys because they were part of my youth, man. Just a kid sneaking into shows, man, having fun, going home and playing guitar all night.
Well, it can't hurt to call him. We think we're not going to get him. He's too busy. He's too big. And we're not going to get him. So we call him up and talk to his manager, and he goes, "Well, there's a possibility. It depends. How much it's going to come up here and meet us." So we go up to Memphis, me and JoJo.
So I kept telling him about this hip band that I was getting into, and then we were at Sounds Unreal recording a DDT tape, and they came in, and this was before I really knew the guys. I was just a fan, but I saw him in the lounge talking to Dad, about what ended up being the record.
My boys, when they were DDT, they had a publishing deal. We cut all their stuff there, and I cut Mojo Nixon there, and Alvin Youngblood Hart, and it's kind of a lesser-known Memphis studio. And the Gun Bunnies, the band from Little Rock, that was done there. But it's a real friendly environment. And see, again, I don't know how candid JoJo has been, but he talked to me about doing it for really a long while.
He was like more like a guru, I guess, of the whole scene. And it was always our dream to hook up with Jim. And we tried so hard. We tried forever, and we couldn't get him, because he was doing the replace. He was big,
And so we get up there and we're talking blah blah blah, and Jim's in the room. We didn't know. I didn't know what he looked like. I never met him before. I just knew his name. And so Jim's in the room over there, and Herb introduces us, his manager, and so we get to rapping about it all. And he's like, "Oh man, I've got 5 days before Christmas."
Harry Peel played a big part, but there was also, we were just driving by a studio one day. Me and George went in there, and we had a big green bud, I think that's what nailed it down, personally.
Got interested in the project. It was be this amount of money. I got 5 days right before Christmas. Exactly that week.
Yeah, but it was really, really nice,
So they came back to him a few months later, and they had Harry Peel, which is the fine gentleman sitting next to me, and they commenced to doing the first record with the lizards on the cover.
A great friend of ours, Jane Rule, who lives in Burdine, who lives in actually the mayor of Taylor, Mississippi. Anyway, Jane Rule is a professional photographer as well, and she took some pictures of us early on in the band stage in old cotton fields and old barns and stuff.
The boys picked the images when I can't remember. It was probably George that asked me if I had any pictures that they might use on their albums.
And we're trying to find some artwork for the front, and we're flipping through Jane Rule's art book, and she's got thousands of them. And one just falls out. And it's this guy he's holding these 3 lizards.
He had 3 little green lizards holding them by the tails, and I always thought a lizard tail would pop off if you held him by it. But anyway, he had these lizards, so I started photographing him, and took a picture of him standing up. He had on an Ole Miss t-shirt and very proudly, showing the little lizards. And then I asked him to put them on the ground, and his fat little pudgy fingers holding them.
Dickinson could not have made a first-time band feel more at ease or more welcome than he did with us. Dickinson was absolutely fantastic.
We get to the studio, and to this day, of all the people that I've met and played with and been on stage with and been around, whatever, nobody has had more of a profound impact on my musical sensibilities and what I think about music than Jim Dickinson. It was amazing.
First time I went in the studio, it all made sense to me. I thought, yeah, okay.
At first I thought, well, this is going to be interesting. I hadn't really done a lot of bands like them.
I listened to the tapes, their demo tapes and some live tapes. I'd seen them play live. And like I said, what appeared to be chaos, I started to see patterns in it, but they weren't fitting together.
I took a purist approach to engineering. I didn't use any EQ at all. Tried to use microphone placement and technique, to get the sound.
What was the other guitar player's name?
I think Dickinson or somebody might have said his name. That other guy, If you look at who I'm playing with, George McConnell, JoJo Herman, even R.G. Lewis. Harry Peel, for that matter. I'll be the other guy to those guys all day long.
Bill. Yeah. If you listen to just his part, it sounded more like it was little squeaks and squawks and noises and things. It wasn't. But when he got inside George, and they didn't always really find each other on stage, but in the studio, I could line them up. It turned into this kind of big Keith Richards, between the two of them. A thing that neither one of them was really playing. But when you put the two guitars together, it was like, oh, there's Keith.
That's what Jim
Whoa,
Dickinson said.
he did?
Yes.
I take that as a compliment.
That's great. A big Keith Richards. I thought that was pretty
It takes two of them to do Keith, man.
And that's what I think I did for him. I just lined them all up to where the parts fit together.
He said, I want you to do what you do on stage, and I'll capture it.
We're arguing about, the endings of a song or something like that. Jim, how do you play it at the bar? Last Thursday when y'all played at Ireland's, how did y'all do it? Well, we did this, we'll do that again.
I really meant it, because what they were doing in the bar was working. Even though it wasn't quite together, and I didn't. But that was all I had to do, was just kind of push it around a little bit in the space. And we did all it without Pro Tools. So we would have been child's play now. We could have cut the whole record 2 or 3 days. Heck, I think we did.
I cannot say enough about Jim. What a super spiritual person he is. I mean, and I don't mean in a religious sense of spiritual. I mean in a truth and honesty. I mean, the man is I guess you could say brutally honest in a way, but it's not brutal. It's fair and it's real.
JoJo, as a keyboard player, he had never played the Hammond B3 organ before, and that's like a virgin experience. It's like if you can turn somebody onto the B3 organ, then you've got them for life, and that pretty much was it for him.
Which was Isaac Hayes.
Was it?
B3, yeah.
He won't tell you this, because I don't think he knows this. But he plays piano like a boogie-woogie player. And there is an 8th note, upbeat emphasis thing that boogie-woogie piano players do that doesn't quite translate to rock and roll. He plays real strong New Orleans influence. But there's that little ragtimey boogie-woogie thing that he does that's not from New Orleans. I don't know where the hell he got it. That may be from New Jersey. I don't know. But it kind of skates across the top of rock and roll. Because rock and roll is all about 8th notes and how you handle the 8th notes. And, black rock and roll shuffles and white rock and roll kind of clunks. What JoJo was doing was too busy. And on the organ, I told him, well, you basically play the organ with one hand. And I said, you turn the Leslie up and on, you play with one hand. And it opened up a space that the guitars could get up in. The key to producing that record was opening up some space, because they didn't have any. They were all just going for it constantly. But it was just at the right time in the development of a band to make what I think is a really good record. I think it still really holds up, and without which I don't think there would be a jam band phenomena right now. I think they were right at the cutting edge of what turned into jam bands. People didn't know what they were, really, what to call it.
Jim made me rethink how I played the bass, and I really got the exposure from him. He knew what he wanted, out of this record, and I totally couldn't agree more. In hindsight, I really bought into the whole less is more philosophy, and I got that from Jim pretty much.
The whole Memphis tradition is very bass heavy, and he was a little busy, and I didn't find out until we were damn near done with the record that he was a guitar player. So he was thinking about more notes.
The first song we're gonna do is Doretha. So here we go. We da 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 da. We go through it one time, and da 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 da. In the thing, he comes out. Okay, you hit on upbeats. Don't play on the 1 and the 3. Play on the 2 and the 4. Drummer, this. JoJo, get your foot off that damn sustain pedal. I don't want to see your foot on the thing. Use your hands for the sustain. That kind of, and one passing through his ears were that good.
We'd record something, he'd sit there with his eyes closed like this, concentrating, and just listen to that one instrument. And then he'd come up out of that trance and tell you what needed to be done or what not to be done.
You're not letting the song breathe. And I was like going, breathe? What are you talking about? He was like going, the song has to have places where it breathes. You can't, just like you talking, you can't talk all the goddamn time. Every now and then you gotta stop and, I'm out there and I'm doing a solo and I'm just like trying so hard. I'm just, he stops. He comes out there and walks out there and he goes, grabs me by the shoulder. He goes, breathe, son. Just breathe. Why? I just went, just, that's what I want to do. It's like going, oh, fucking listen to, millions of hours of live tapes of us. I was like, well, that's when I'm fucking overplaying.
I don't think he'd ever thought about rhythm and melody together. Because what I'm trying to do with an artist is take them out to the cliff, right to the edge of the cliff, And then, they say, oh, I don't want to go out here because I might fall. And I say, oh, no, that's why I'm here. Don't worry. I get them out to the edge of the cliff and I push them off. And, generally they fly. Some of them fall, but they were going to fall anyway. I love to see them fly, and George really did. We got him out to the edge of the cliff and he just flew away.
The song is the most important thing. It's not anything else. That's why we're all here, and that's why people are going to like it, not because you're a badass guitar playing Yngwie Malmsteen,
Jim taught me how to be a musician and not just a guy who played a lot of notes and ran scales. He taught me how to be a keyboard player. Whenever I get away from what Jim taught me and I start going off and doing like this, and I start doing all that stuff, and I listened back to it and I was like, God, that's horrible. It's like, I should have listened to Jim.
It was hard to pull JoJo back on Staggerly. Because at the time, Staggerly was like a real important part of their set. It was really identified strongly with JoJo. And he was way over the top with the performance, to pull it back to where it sounded like he was in the studio playing was hard. But Hold the Wheel was the one. That's what the whole record really hinged on. And the weird little song that the other guitar players sang, which I thought was really missing from their next record, was his weird little, man, you read the lyrics. Write down the lyrics to that song and check it out. That's a strange little song.
I think it's a classic Southern rock record, you know what I mean? And it just totally captures that time.
I didn't realize until later how much of an influence it was. Like Cody, when they, with one of their incarnations of DDT, Cody used to do Hold the Wheel, from behind the drum kit. And I think he could do Doretha right now, plus Harry Peel was a big influence on Cody anyway. And Luther told me, back then my son Luther was on the scene pretty strong and in the audience, and he turned me on to a lot of different bands and musicians in that period of time. The Flat Duo Jets, I would have never done them except Luther saw them somewhere and came back home that night and said, "Daddy, I saw this guitar player you've got to produce." And the same thing with Beanland.
So yeah, we did do the record, and it was just incredible. Like I said, it was very fast. I mean, 3 days of recording, and everything was laid down. I'm talking about everything, all the vocals, all the solos, all the everything. 3 days, 3.5 days, and Jim, all right, get out of here, boys. I'm gonna mix it now. Called us back in a day and a half, and boom, there it was.
If you know it took all the luck to get it right, did you assume it was you, the only one in sight?
Down in Vicksburg, there's a sightseeing boat that holds 120 people. It's a 2-story thing. It's not really a very big boat, but it's a little 2-story deal. Well, my buddy down in Vicksburg said, well, you know, I got my friends in Beanland, good band. He goes, I'm going to hire the boat for the night and sell tickets. Once you left the dock, we were under what we call maritime law, which basically anything go. It was wild debauchery. And all the tugboat captains, they're working from, you know, all the late night shift, and they're driving up and down, they're shining their thing, there's just girls and halters dancing and waving at them. They're like, well, holy shit, there's this band out there, you know, and Vicksburg went so well. We did it maybe, had to been 7 or 8 times altogether. It was so fun. Oh God, those boat trips were so fun.
I'll tell you when JoJo wrote Hold the Wheel is when he and I went down to the captain's on a Spirit of Vicksburg one night. Yeah. And I was in there with him, and the captain was spotlighting deer, and JoJo was just staring at the wheel the whole time. You think you'll let me? You think you'll let me?
You know, I was kind of fascinated by the wheel, you know, because I was like, you know, I'd never driven a car, let alone a boat.
First, it must have been 20, 30 times we played it. We called
Cleared
it
the dance floor.
Yeah, we called it the room clearer.
Yeah.
Because man, we'd play it, and then it would be a packed room. We'd start playing that, you know, that dun 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 dun.
Trying to dance to it.
Yeah, next thing you know, man, everybody was
gone. And we were in the band too. We're adamant. We're like, man, we know this is a good song. We're gonna fucking play it. You know,
And we were like in Judge Hell right before we get going. Okay, boys, we're gonna clear the room. If he really wanted to clear the room, he would make that intro another 5 minutes. So the tune would be like 15 minutes long.
It was actually a hard-fought war.
It was.
It was a damn battle, man.
We started liking it, and
we were adamant we were going to damn play it.
Here it comes.
You know, when I moved to Mississippi, like, I got this Volkswagen Bug, you know, and I had to have little stickers on my thing saying, you know, how to clutch and all that stuff. But, you know, I didn't know how to drive. So anyway, Hold the Wheel kind of came out of that whole not knowing how to drive. I guess Hold the Wheel is, you know, is like just about, you know, not listening to anybody but yourself.
The road was fun. It really was. I don't know, hundreds of thousands of miles we traveled together. There's lots of stories on the road. Lots.
I was pissing my side of the road, had my pants down to my knees, and I turned on the radio. Yeah, I'll pick you up, throw you down. Every day we're going to, every day I'm used to.
Good 4 to 5 years we were in that time span, and we were, you know, that nucleus. So we were really tight. If you go back and listen to some of the stuff from, you know, 90 to 92, you know, some of that live stuff is just tight as shit, and I'm proud of it. And you know, it's that's when we were really good.
And I left the band in 1991. He said, guys, I enjoyed it. This is hard. And we cried and hugged and said, I have a great time. And they asked me to come sit in a couple times. And and then on the second album, anyway.
But just kind of heard here and there, you know, Beanland's getting really popular, and I always knew that they drew huge crowds down in Oxford. Got a call from JoJo saying that, hey, he was, I'm not sure how this exactly worked out, if he knew that he was going to be joining Widespread Panic, which he ended up doing at the time, or how it all worked out. But basically, he was asking me if I wanted to come join the band.
About 4 or 5 months before I left, JoJo had been sitting in with Panic in the studio, helping fill in some holes of some things that they needed and some extra things. And he started to develop a really good relationship with those guys. And we opened them up a couple of times and played with them, which was wonderful. That's 200 more hours of talk of how cool those guys are.
So I went up there, and the Lexington gig was packed out. There was, the bar was wall to wall. Everybody knew these guys' songs. Everybody's having a great time on stage. We went down to Knoxville, and it was even bigger. And I was like, yeah, count me in. This looks like a lot of fun. I maybe played 4 or 5 gigs with JoJo, maybe a couple months. Those were some really good times.
And that was a real shakeup when JoJo left. Of course, kind of goes without saying, because a big part of the sound, of course, was the piano. So we kind of went in a different direction after he left. Of course, we were at a pinnacle from a performance standpoint. With all that time together under our belts, and JoJo got offered the gig, and he couldn't turn it down. I can't blame him.
Panic was kind of, well, I don't know how to say this. They needed a keyboard player that matched them, better at that time. And he certainly fit the bill. I'm so thankful that he came along. It must have been a tremendous loss to Beanland, though. At the time, I bet it was just like, holy, oh no.
Man, I love Widespread Panic, but I was a Beanland fan. As a kid growing up in Mississippi, I loved Beanland. And when JoJo joined Panic, I was disappointed. Honestly, because I was like, oh, fuck.
It was scary at first because a lot of the stuff, a couple of songs they did with JoJo, Cell in the Rain, and just some things that were really, that we kept doing even, like Fishing Impossible and things was a big extended kind of funk tune we did that really, had JoJo's kind of signature on it and things, and people would be requesting these, and we're like, JoJo's not the band anymore, and it's just kind of uneasy. I was like, crap.
The last year we played without JoJo, and everywhere we played, everybody said, where's the piano player? And we said, well, Widespread Panic hired him. And they said, well, why don't you get another one? We're like, who are we going to get to replace JoJo? It's pretty tough to replace him.
I missed him when he left.
I think we were all pretty understanding about it, but we were like, which way do we turn now? Right. That kind of thing. We decided, we had to press on.
So when JoJo left, then Ron left, the whole scope changed.
And then on Eye to Eye, Poe and Chris is the bass player. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Sleep Cleater on the drums. They. Once again, they clicked well together on the material they were doing. George and Poe both were just playing great.
They kicked butt after that too. Poe was a ripper. It was still a great band anyway. Yeah, I think even without JoJo. September 30th, 1993. That was the last show. Yeah, it was tough. I got it on videotape down here. It was tough. JoJo tried to make it back. We couldn't make it back. McCrory came back and played. It had been, it was sad to see it go. Been playing for a long time, been on the road together for a long time. But it was time to move on to something else, I guess.
Everybody's got to leave now. Oh, okay. But wait, I can have a guitar up there, sir. No, really. That guitar is mine. No, I promise. Wait, no, I mean it. That Come on. Damn, it's good to see you, Dylan.
My wife was trying to talk me into, trying to get everybody together to, play, because she had never, had the chance to see Beanland live. So through her prompting, we just kind of finally got together, on the phone. There were apprehensions, but we finally got it together, and that was just too cool.
It gives a lot of people who never got a chance to see us a chance to see it. Whereas if we didn't play, whereas if we didn't play, they'd never get to see us. And we've only played, we hadn't played in what? It's been 10 and a half years, I guess, since the last official show.
Hell, I have to ask, have I stepped up again? And will I have to try and pick myself back up again? I'd rather lay here and think the most regrettable thoughts I got to sink on past it all. I'm falling in a closet of memories to dance on. I am not afraid to dance on. I am not afraid to dance on. I am not afraid to know I'm just a little bit shaken. Chance to see me dance, it's the craziest thing you've seen around. It don't make no sense. I got to shake my shoes up on top, rattle my shins. I got to jump up over the moon. I bust right through the goddamn fence and dance on. I am not afraid to dance on. I am not afraid to dance on. I am not afraid to know I'm just a little bit shaky. Try and open up my eyes again. Just when I see the angels dancing on the head of a pin, I'd rather pick myself right back up there over myself. I wanna wiggle in the stratosphere, or twinkle in the middle of the cosmic flux and dance on. I am not afraid to dance on. Afraid to dance on. I am not afraid to know I'm just a little bit shaky. Dance on. I am not afraid to dance on. I am not afraid to dance on. I am not afraid to know I'm just a little bit shaky.
had many times people ask me about that hadn't heard our band. What kind of music do you guys do? What kind of music do you guys do? That's the question. And I think what the story that came tweaked along the years was, and I think is a good description, is it's river music. And it's Mississippi River music from, if you follow the Mississippi River from Memphis to New Orleans. You've got a little bit of Memphis rhythm and blues influence, a lot of Mississippi Delta blues, hardcore blues influence, and a significant amount of New Orleans, second line, Professor Longhair, which JoJo brings to the band, of course, influence. So river music, I think, says it all.
Dream about a reefer 5 feet long, it's awful nice, but it's not too strong. We'll all get high, but not for long. If you's a viper, gotta be high to get that thing. High as the sky to feel that swing, just light that tea and we will see. If you's a viper, when your throat gets dry, you know you're high and everything is dandy. Pop down to the candy shop, throw your conk on peppermint candy. The sky is high, and so am I. Why don't you pick one up and smoke it sometime? Just say no.
Old train cars, I ain't got no real time. Wait down in the train yard with the schedule behind. Yeah, nothing's wrong if that's alright with you. I got a feeling that some wishes come true. Train passed by, he blowed his whistle twice. We jumped up to the window, watched it pass on by. Old train cars, I ain't got no real time. Wait down in the freight yard with the schedule behind. Yeah, nothing's wrong if that's